Should you learn how to make Roblox games? Is a question I've been wanting to answer in a video for a little while now. However, there was one small issue. I don't actually know anything about Roblox. So, there was only one logical solution. I challenged myself to learn the ins and outs of Roblox Studio in only 1 week. In this video, I'll go over what I did on every day of the challenge, and at the end, I'll give my thoughts on the engine, and I'll explain whether or not I think you should learn it, depending on your skill level and goals. And if you already know that you want to make Roblox games, then hopefully you can learn from the tips I give as I explain my learning process. But first, I'd like to go over my history with Roblox up until now. Cause you see, I actually did play Roblox from around 2009 to 2011. And while today Roblox has grown into this huge platform that's worth like $1 gazillion, back then things were a lot more simple. Now, I was like 6 years old, so my memory might be a little fuzzy, but I think I remember playing a lot of games like obstacle courses, natural disaster survival, work at a pizza place, which are still around today, but not quite as popular. And also back then, there wasn't any smooth terrain, everything was made out of, well, blocks. It really just felt like playing with Legos, but on the computer, and it was really fun. But I would eventually stop playing in 2011 when I discovered Minecraft and moved on to that, without ever looking back. And that was it. For the next 12 years of my life, I didn't play Roblox, or really ever thought about it. I knew it still existed, I would hear about it from like memes and stuff, but that was about it. So when I made my intro to game dev video, talking about Roblox never even crossed my mind. So I was surprised when I got a comment asking why I didn't talk about Roblox. And then I got another, and another, and another, and another, and I got a lot of comments asking about Roblox. And I thought, Roblox? That's not really a game engine, right? And thus, I embarked on a quest to learn more about Roblox. Over the course of 2023, I would discover just how much had changed in my 12 years of absence. For one, some of these games are actually really good, and a few of them don't even look like they were made in Roblox. It's actually insane. It's no longer just Lego Gmod. I can see why people call it a game engine. The only problem is, those good games are kinda rare, and they're usually hidden under a mountain of low-quality games. And in recent years, Roblox seems to be having a lot of issues. But I'm not here to talk about that. Instead, I want to focus on the game development tool itself, Roblox Studio, and find out if it's a good engine. So, why am I doing this? Well, 2 reasons. For one, I've only ever made 2D single-player games, so the idea of making 3D multiplayer games was really exciting. And 2, I actually have a game idea that I think would be a nice fit for Roblox, so I thought I could try to make it. After the challenge, that is. Because I'm going to follow my own advice. I will not learn the engine just to make a game. Instead, I'll make a game to learn the engine. So I tossed my game idea aside for the time being. Alright, now that this is finally out of the way, we can get on with the challenge. Starting with...
In life you have roadblocks.
So, day 1. I opened Roblox Studio and went in the default starting place. I completely ignored the built-in tutorial and instead had my friend Echo show me the basics. I learned to move around and select stuff, then move, scale, and rotate objects. Then he showed me the marketplace, where you can choose from an endless amount of user-generated assets and put them directly in your projects. For better or for worse. You'll see what I mean. As a test, I grabbed the Santa model and I tried to see how big I could make it. turns out, you can make things really big. Then I tried using the smooth terrain feature, which is alright. I didn't end up using it a whole lot, so I don't have much to say about it, but it looks nice. Then I learned about Roblox's Team Create feature, which allows for multiple people to edit the same game at the same time, which is honestly really impressive. Like, I think that's really cool. I don't think any other engine lets you do something like that, as far as I'm aware. Then after that, we started messing around with random marketplace models, and things quickly got out of hand.
You can really search up the weirdest crap. You could probably search up like Thanos Sands and something would probably come up.
Some Gen Alpha thing.
Skibidi toilet.
Skibidi toilet, Riz, Ohio.
It's real.
I hate it. I hate it so much.
Sans Undertale. He's T-posing. Look at him.
Oh.
Look at him.
Oh, there.
Sans Undertale.
Oh
jeez. That's a little too big. No, not him. I want to click his head.
Make his head really small, but his... That is pretty funny.
If you search up boss fight, you just get the funniest crap. Obama boss fight.
Obama
My
boss
favorite.
fight! Yes, I want to play Obama boss fight.
There actually is an official Obama boss fight game. You want to go
What do you
play
mean
that?
official? Official by who? The government?
Yes.
What? No.
I'm joking.
Obama. I want to play the Obama boss fight.
You want to play Obama boss fight?
Yeah.
Alright, bro, I'm sending it.
Oh yeah, and then we got distracted and fought Obama for a while.
What is this?
I don't know.
What is this? Bro, what is this thing? Obama.
He can't get it anymore. Obama sends!
Oh, that's not Obama, that's just president stuff.
Obama boss, cause yes.
Obama Minecraft? What is this?
I can't think anymore.
Why is the baby in the sky? Did you do that?
No? What?
What it... Go back.
The baby? Oh my god. That's a the baby Among Us. You did that. There's a big ass wall over there. What the f is this?
Go check it out.
Oh no. Oh my god, Spoikus! Oh no. It is so...
This is Roblox development. Oh gee. Oh, I'm sorry.
What?
Oh my god.
Oh, it's
Dude,
laggy. Oh,
dude.
What did you do?
There's a thing that said box so sus, you should place it, and then I click on it, I think it's a torrent.
What?
I think it's a fake
What
torrent.
the f...
Should I allow the scripts?
No.
Should I click OK?
Please no. 20,000? No. Now, this might seem like I was just messing around, and I was, but for a good reason. You see, I have this one special trick that I use to help me learn anything. I call it making it funny. By simply making something that makes you laugh, learning becomes a lot more fun. You're also a lot more likely to remember something if you have a funny memory attached to it. For example, if you're learning how to apply textures, why use a boring test texture when you could instead put a dumb meme instead? Or, when debugging, why print hello world or test when you could instead print something funny? No one's gonna stop you. You're gonna see a lot more examples of what I mean throughout the video. I don't know if that sounds silly, but it's the small things like that that makes game dev so much fun for me. In any case, I didn't just mess around on my first day. I also learned Lua, the coding language Roblox uses to make scripts. Since I already know a couple of languages, this was really easy, and all I needed to learn was how Lua was written compared to the other ones that I knew. And if you're struggling to learn a coding language, especially your first one, let me share with you the trick I use every time I learn a new language. I simply make a text file, and then I put examples of every new thing I learn. So like an example of creating a variable, or an if-else statement, or a loop, or the print function. Anything, really. By doing that, I don't have to remember absolutely everything by heart. I can simply copy and paste the examples whenever I need them, instead of manually typing out the whole thing every single time. And after a while, your brain will start to automatically remember stuff, and you won't need to look it up anymore. This isn't lazy, by the way. Programming is all about saving time and copy-pasting.
Millions of players are doing the stupidest shit on Roblox. God, I hate the French. Whose idea was it to recreate this neo-Gothic nightmare?
Day 2. This day was by far the steepest part of the learning curve. I started off by putting aside the whole mess we did yesterday and instead created a new empty project. Going into it, I already knew exactly what I wanted to code first. A block that moves. Listen, when I say you should start small when learning game dev, I mean it. So I found a tutorial, and after a bit of confusion, I got it to work. And then I used a few for loops to make it move in a square pattern. Now that's cool and all, but it doesn't move the player when you stand on it. Which I expected was gonna happen, because it's technically not really moving, it's just a static object teleporting slightly on every frame. So I thought, oh, I know, I'll try to manually code that in. Just check if the player is touching the platform, and if so, change the position. Like, I knew that probably wasn't the best way to do it, but I at least wanted to try. Skip ahead an hour later, and nothing works. I have no idea what I'm doing. Wow, it's almost as if trying to forcefully learn something that you don't even know if you should learn isn't a good idea. So instead of racking my brain to figure out why something I don't understand doesn't work, I moved on to something else. I tried to learn user inputs. As a test, I thought I'd make it so that a brick would move when you press a certain key. Sounds easy enough. So I put a script inside the part and followed a tutorial. But it doesn't work. Turns out this user input service thing only works inside of a local script. Alright then, so I create a local script and put the code in there. And it still doesn't work. Oh, turns out local scripts only work inside local objects? And local objects are only for the player and not the physical 3D space? Oh, okay. Then how am I supposed to code interactions between the player and the game world? Is what I was thinking at the time. The problem is that I was still trying to code with a single-player mentality. But Roblox is a multiplayer game. It doesn't work like that. So I came to realize that I had to throw out all of my preconceptions and start to learn how to think with multiplayer. For starters, I went and learned how to properly read player inputs. But then I discovered the instance function, which lets you create new objects from a script. So for fun, I tried to use it from a key press. And to my surprise, it actually works? Even though it's a local script, so shouldn't it not be able to create server objects? Well, whatever. Point is, it works. Then, for some reason, I had the idea of making a ball spawner that would shoot out spheres everywhere. After a bit of tinkering, I got it to work. But for some reason, when it spawns, it waits in the air a little bit before moving. In the tutorial I watched, it did the same thing, so I don't think it's something I did wrong, but it still really annoyed me. So to fix that, I simply made them invisible by default. Then made it so it would reappear a few frames after spawning. It does not fix the original problem at all, but hey, it works. And finally, to finish off the day, I learned how to add UI elements. And things went smoothly for once. I figured out all of the basics from a mix of messing around on my own and reading the documentation. Oh yeah, and then I made a button that kills the player when you click on it. And then I made it spawn an explosion too. For good measures.
Luigi.
Going into day 3, I knew exactly what I was gonna do. I was gonna have my revenge on the moving platform, and I would make it work the right way this time. So I simply followed the tutorial, and at long last, I got it to work. Okay, that's not supposed to happen. Oh, I just forgot one line. Oops. Alright, so now moving platforms work. But while I was trying to fix the issue, I found out about tweening, which allows you to smoothly move a part from point A to point B. Which sounds simple enough, but was a whole nother issue to figure out. Getting one of them to work was easy enough, but in order to keep the square pattern, I had to chain several tweens in a row. And I could just not, for the life of me, figure out how. For a while, the first one would work fine, then the second one would play twice, and then it would stop moving. And when I did eventually get them to play one after the other, it started moving in a diamond pattern instead of a square pattern. But I quickly realized that was because I misunderstood how the endpoints worked. Anyway, once I did that, there was something else I wanted to try. So earlier, I did say that I wouldn't try to make the game idea I had. But surely trying to code just one of the game mechanics wouldn't hurt, right? I'm not gonna reveal what the game is, but what I can say is that I need to be able to change the color of the player's body parts. I was easily able to make it work on a dummy character, but for some reason, I could just not get it to work on the actual player character. I did find a tutorial that let me change a body part's color when colliding with another object, but even with that knowledge, I still couldn't manually change the color whenever I wanted. Now, I did eventually figure out the problem at the end of day 7. So in the meantime, I tried to learn something else. I wanted to make a projectile that the player could shoot with a mouse click. But right away, I faced the same problem I did on day 2 when I tried to learn player inputs. Except that this time around, I had a lead to go off of. A little something called remote events. So I carefully read through the documentation, attentively followed the tutorial, and before long, I did it. I now finally knew how to link together client-side and server-side code. With that knowledge in hand, I felt like nothing could hold me back anymore. Now all I had left to do is make it so that the projectile moves in the same direction the camera is pointing at. And since I was feeling so confident, I wanted to try coding the math by myself, using the power of sin and cos to transform camera angle values into speed values for all 3 axes. Fast forward 3 hours and I got kinda close. I could get it to work in 2 dimensions perfectly fine, but as soon as I put all 3, the angles would become slightly off. Now, by then, it was like 3 AM, so I decided to give up and look for the solution. And as it turns out, I could have just done this. Yep, that's it. A single line of code. That's all I needed to do.
In a century.
On day 4, Echo wanted to show me how to do basic 3D modeling on Roblox. Like by using blocks of negative space and fusing them to other shapes, you can make holes. And by fusing simple shapes together, you can make some simple models. So then we made a basic little campfire model and added a few particle effects. And then we started adding a bunch of random models and got sidetracked again. But I'll spare you the details this time. Anyway, after that, I wanted to try making a character model. So I grabbed a few random shapes and made a totally random stick figure thing. Then I gave it a rigging skeleton and used it to make a very simple cartwheel animation. And then I didn't touch the animation feature ever again. But hey, that's good to know, I guess. Afterwards, I wanted to learn how to display variables on the HUD, which led me to learn how to use the leaderboard. So then I needed a way to test it. So I looked around the project, looked at my ball spawner, and thought, yeah, sure, that'll do, and made it so that the money value goes up every time you touch a ball. But then, I got hit by a flash of inspiration. In a sudden stroke of genius, I got a game idea. So I immediately got to work and quickly built a simple prototype. And over the rest of the day, I would try to polish the game as much as possible. I started by trying to add a texture to the spheres, and I decided to go with the good old Roblox man face. I originally wanted the texture to wrap around the whole thing, but for some reason, Roblox treats spheres like cubes and gives it 6 faces that you can apply a texture to. So I settled on using 6 separate decals to cover the whole thing. Then I wanted to make the spheres fade out and despawn after a while. But for some reason, I couldn't change their opacity anymore. And it took me way too long to realize that the spheres did in fact become transparent, but not the decals. So I had to also change the decals' opacity. All 6 of them. Then I added 2 new types of balls. A green one that gives you 10 points, and a red one that kills you. And with that, I finally had something that started to look like a game. Now, I also wanted to have a high score value that would get saved when you quit the game and come back. And in order to do that, you need to use what Roblox calls data stores. But it looked kinda complicated and it was getting late, so I decided to stop here for the day.
Stop posting about baller. I'm tired of seeing it. My friends on TikTok send me baller. On Discord it's fucking baller.
So, for day 5, I picked up right where I left off and started learning data stores. And as it turns out, it wasn't actually that complicated. I got it working in like half an hour. So then came the real test, posting it to Roblox and trying it out for real. So I made an announcement on my Discord server and got a few people to join. And sure enough, when they left and came back, their high scores were saved. Well, that was easy. I sure do hope data stores don't end up causing a ton of bugs later down the line. Anyway, now that I finally had a game prototype, I wanted to polish it as much as I could before my 7 days were up. I started by giving the arena a little makeover. Now the camera can pass through the wall and they're only visible from the inside. Then I put it in the air and added a floor. Alright, let's test it. Do not forget to anchor floating objects. Oh, right. Yeah, okay, yeah, there you go. Oh, and also I lowered the floor a bit, so now the spheres can fall off the map. I thought it made the game more interesting. Alright, now this whole game idea started because I wanted to show a variable on the UI, so let's actually do that. And there you have it. Another thing I can put off my checklist. Let's see, what else do I have in here? Oh, particle effects. Let's do that. Okay, so real talk, the Roblox particle system is really good. Like, okay, seriously, look at this. When you make a particle object, you can modify things like color, size, transparency, texture, speed, direction, frequency, how long it lives, and more. But then, for some attributes, you can open a graph to customize the value for any point during its lifespan. And the changes apply in real time as you modify the graph. And while I was writing this script, I realized that you could even put a range of randomness for any given point on the graph. Like, yo, that's so cool! It gives you a lot of control while still being very easy to use. Okay, I got a little carried away there, but point is, I added some particle effects when you touch a sphere. Awesome. And finally, I also put a glowing orb in the spot where the spheres spawn from. And yeah, that's about it for day 5.
Hey guys, today we're gonna be doing a Roblox gameplay. Oh shit.
Okay, day 6. Let's speed things up. The first thing I did was adding a little pop-up above your head when you grab a sphere. And to achieve that, I decided to use something called Billboard GUI, which basically allows you to have a UI element somewhere in 3D space. About an hour later, I got it working. You know, no big deal. I was starting to get used to Roblox Studio. Following that, I decided to split the money value into 2 things. A score value that tracks how many points you have in the current game, and a money value that tracks how many points you have in total. Because of that, I had to rework most of the leaderboard and UI code, which wasn't too bad, but that was just the beginning. Making this change also meant that I now had 2 variables per player to save in the data store. And that caused a lot of problems. But I'll skip all the boring details. What matters is that I did get it to work after a few hours. And by that, I mean that it was now midnight. I felt bad for not adding that much new stuff for the day, so I thought I'd try learning one last thing. Sound effects. And Yep, it sure works. One thing to note though is that you can only upload 10 sound effects a month, which kinda sucks. You do have unlimited access to the marketplace, but...
Put me down! I can't take this! Please put me down!
What? Yeah, it's a mixed bag. Anyhow, before stopping for the day, I finally gave the game some much needed sound effects. Have a listen. Alright, the final day. I was starting to feel the strain of working on something 6 days in a row without taking a day off. But hey, if I want to be a game developer, I'd better get used to it, am I right? Anyway, I wanted to spend the day adding as many features and as much polish as possible. But after doing a quick multiplayer test, I realized that data stores were still completely broken and would cause various interesting bugs, like having someone else's score show up on my UI somehow. And then other bugs were just silly mistakes. Like here in the code that runs when you die. Your high score gets saved to the data store, and if your score is higher than your high score gets updated. Can you spot the problem here? Well, let's say you got a new high score and then died. Your current high score gets saved to the data store, and then, since your score is higher than your high score, your high score gets updated. So at that point, if you were to quit the game and come back, your high score would be lost. You might have a mental image of a computer bug as being a small little math error that causes big problems, but more often than not, it's really just dumb things like this. Anyway, after a long time of fixing similar bugs, I finally got everything working correctly for real this time. All I had to do was remove the part that wasn't working instead of fixing it. Okay, now that everything worked, I could finally start adding content. And oh my god, it's already 10 PM. Now, with the limited time I had left, I wanted to focus on diversifying the gameplay. Cause, as it is now, every life is basically the same. So, my idea was to give the floor platform some random events. Using our good old friend, tweening, I can give the platform custom movements, such as closing, opening a lot, tilting but closed, spinning, moving side to side, and my personal favorite, bouncing. I still had many ideas left, like making a UI element warn you about the upcoming event, but unfortunately, my time was up. There's still quite a few things I wish I had learned, but overall, I think I'm happy with what I managed to make in only 7 days. Oh, and if you want to try the game out yourself, I'll put a link to it in the description. Well, before I knew it, the Roblox Learning Week was over. So, what did I think of Roblox Studio? Well, I liked it. I thought it was really fun to use. There were a few bumps along the road, of course, but overall, Studio was really easy to learn. Now, sure, I already knew how to code, and I have some game dev experience, but Roblox Studio was the first time I ever successfully used an engine that's 3D, multiplayer, and only uses code. 'Cause, as a matter of fact, most of my game dev experience actually comes from codeless engines. Now, do I think Studio should be your first engine? No, I'd still recommend Scratch. But here's the thing, in general, most engines will have a trade-off between how easy it is to learn and how much power and freedom it gives you. And I felt like Roblox gave you a pretty nice balance. You're limited by the fact that you can only make games for Roblox, but in exchange, you're given a tool to easily make multiplayer games. And, by the way, making a multiplayer game is really hard. It's not as simple as clicking the Make Multiplayer button in your engine. And on top of that, hosting game servers costs a lot of money. Yet the fact that Roblox will just give anyone free server space at no costs, that's really cool. You shouldn't take that for granted. Okay, so back to this graph real quick. If your goal is to make a big 3D game, but all you know is like Scratch, then I think learning Studio could be a great way to ease the transition into bigger engines. Engines like, I don't know, Godot for example. Which, incidentally, the way Godot works with its node system is kinda similar to how Studio works with the whole parent-child system. I'm just saying. Lastly, I'd like to quickly go over why I think Studio was so easy to learn. Mainly, I'd say it's thanks to the official documentation. This is how I learned almost everything. More than any tutorial, and especially more than the AI assistant. This is where I learned it all. As long as you can, like, read and pay attention, you can learn everything you'll ever need to know about Studio. It's as easy as going on Google and typing Roblox, then whatever you're trying to learn, and usually it's the first link. Don't know how to use a search engine? No problem, just right-click on any object and click Help. And heck, in the code editor, it'll constantly give you a short description of whatever you're typing. And if you click the Learn More button, it'll send you straight to the documentation. So you have no excuses. Roblox is easy to learn. And yeah, I think Roblox Studio is pretty fun. However, that's not quite the end of the story. I'd be doing a disservice if I didn't also talk about Roblox itself. So, I quickly mentioned around the start of the video that Roblox has a lot of issues. But there's one in particular that really bothers me. Here's the thing with Roblox. For those who don't know, Roblox has a premium currency called Robux that you can buy with real money and spend on in-game items. And then, as a developer, you can add in-game purchases to your project and get a cut of the Robux. And if you're really successful, you can become a Roblox partner and trade your Robux for real money. And some people have gone actual millions of dollars doing that. So, chances are, if you wanna make a Roblox game, it's because you just wanna make some easy Robux. But here's my problem with that. How do you think these developers made so much money? By making really good, high-quality games and using honest business practices? Yeah, right, come on, who am I kidding? Most likely, it's by using the same kind of dirty tactics mobile games use to maximize profits. Like daily login bonuses, limited time sale, pay-to-win mechanics, battle passes, microtransactions, loot boxes, and of course, gambling.
Aw, dang it. 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 Aw,
Ah yes, selling gambling to children. A classic.
Oh, but it's not real money. It's fake in-game currency. See, it's not gambling.
Yes, in-game currency that you can buy with Robux, which you can buy using real money. I really think it's a shame that this is what Roblox is teaching to young aspiring game developers, to be greedy instead of wanting to make a fun experience. And from what I've heard, the Roblox algorithm seems to push games that make a lot of money, which in turn makes the game more popular and thus makes more money, regardless of if the game is actually good or not. So if you want your game to be popular, you don't have much of a choice. Or do you? You know, it doesn't have to be this way. I don't think so. Instead of complaining that Roblox isn't what it used to be, why don't we do something about it? After all, Roblox games aren't made by big companies, they're made by people like you and me. And what I hope that I've managed to show with this video is that making Roblox games is easy. If I could learn to do that in a week, imagine what you could do in like a month or two, you know? You could even have a couple of friends tag along thanks to the Team Create feature. And when you play Roblox and you finally find a good game, tell people about it, share it to your friends, support the creator if you can. You can also watch, share, and make videos about underrated Roblox games. And if you know anyone that wastes their precious Robux on brain rot games, try to convince them to maybe stop. If we all do our part, then maybe, just maybe, we can make Roblox a slightly better place. And you know what? If you want to put a little donation option in your game, that's fine. If you can make a few Robux like that, good for you, that's awesome. Just don't do it just for the Robux. Do it 'cause it's fun, alright? But hey, at the end of the day, only one thing is for sure. In life, there's roadblocks.